Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a massive episode, and for today's video, Lou and I are going to be going through our top 10 Kendrick Lamar songs. Since we've started the channel, Kendrick Lamar has always been a heavy topic of conversation in all of our podcast recordings, so if you guys are going to enjoy this episode, smash that like button and hit the subscribe button, because we're going to be doing a lot more Kendrick Lamar content just like this. But Lou, let's get into this, man. I have been waiting to do this episode for such a long time. I mean, we've gotten super chats about our top 3 Kendrick songs. I mean, you and I have discussed some of his best material before. So what was the mentality going into this episode?
I think the mentality was just trying to decipher what's truly his best sort of set of songs, like putting the bias aside. Obviously, some personal bias and personal enjoyment is going to come into the play here, but at the same time, I really wanted to choose 10 songs that I feel like, for whatever reasons, different reasons, stand out as the top of the top in the Kendrick Lamar catalog. But what about you?
Absolutely. I think I really prioritize writing in this list. I think that
you have to consider production too, man.
Of course, but I think that if you look at some of his best written songs, the productions always kind of play into that. And I always feel like when you value Kendrick Lamar's art and you value, let's say, his album experiences, you'll always find those one or two songs that are huge outliers, let's say, on the track list that are really like the magnum opuses of those track lists, if that makes sense to you. So with that being said, let's start off with some honorable mentions, all right? Because there was a lot that didn't make my list. I want to say that today.
And this might be some hot takes for us not having these in our top 10, but Money Trees featuring J-Rock
didn't include
is
Money
not
Trees.
in my top 10.
That's nuts.
In terms of what my favorites are and how much I've junked Money Trees, it would be top 3. For like my most played Kendrick songs would definitely be up there, but when I look at the 10 other songs I have in this list, I just feel like there's a bit more value to them. But what about you? I guess Money Trees is not in your honorable mentions.
That is definitely
Spoiler
not in my
alerts right there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not there.
High Power, another song that I love, one of his most spiritual songs, the best produced song in Section 80. I love the movement he was pushing there, but not a top 10 song.
I have that in my top 10 as well.
Wow.
Jeez, bro, what's going on here? Listen, ADHD didn't crack my list. That was one that I really wanted to include for replay value, just kind of like Kendrick Lamar's early anthem. That was one that I was considering. Cushion Corinthians, that was another one that I was really considering. Like those Section 80 spiritual type of songs with the writing and the descriptive writing was so cool to see it back then. Even Poor Man's Dreams was something I was looking, because I went to album per album. And I was like, what am I going to grab out of these albums? And then what am I going to look at, let's say, to make my final cue, if that makes sense
So
to you.
did you try to balance it? Because I didn't go for that at all.
No, I didn't balance it, but I was just like, let me grab what I think is the best from each and every single album, and then like we're going to narrow it down. And then we're going to see what happens.
M.A.A.d City did not make my top 10.
M.A.A.d City didn't make my top 10 either.
Wow.
That was another one. For pure rapping performance, I guess you could put it in a top 10, but I mean, it didn't crack mine. These Walls and Institutionalized were another two songs that I absolutely adore off of the Pimp A Butterfly. Such deep content matter, but did not make my top 10. How about you? Any of those?
The Hard Part 4 didn't make my top 10. I really wanted to include that one.
Did the Hard Part 5 make it?
Maybe, maybe not. You off of T-Pab.
So the Hard Part 5 over fucking Money Trees? Jeez, bro, that's crazy. The Hard Part 5, though, is definitely an honorable mention, and the Hard Part 4 is an honorable mention as well.
Yeah.
Pride and Feel off of Damn as well were two that I was like,
well, I have one of those. I won't say which one.
Probably Feel. But looking at this list, I'm actually very happy with what I was able to come together with.
I'm happy. I'll be honest. I feel like most of my list does come from 3 albums, like the majority of it. But yeah, let's get into this shit, bro.
All right, at number 10, this is where I'm going to have Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. What do you have at number 10?
Number 10, I have Feel off of Damn.
Okay, there we go. So you ended up
Feel over Money Trees, over High Power, and I'll get into it.
Well, no, I think it's a valid claim. I feel like you could get into the writing and you could start an argument for, let's say, the way that he's depicting his emotions and all the trials and tribulations he's gone through. But Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is such an anthem, and I feel like when you go into this song, there's just a sense of calm and serenity when you get into the track itself. It has this beautiful bliss to it, and it's so cool from a writing standpoint too, because Kendrick Lamar is talking about the industry and how everyone's kind of following a certain trend, or how, you know, they're following certain artistic and creative decisions to be able to promote their music and make money off of their music. But in hindsight, you know, he's going into a different area with his catalog, and I feel like when you look at this record, it really speaks about Kendrick Lamar's creative intent, if that makes sense to you. You know, like what was he trying to do as an artist, and what is his vision as an artist as a whole? You know, it's not necessarily the most politically profound song in his catalog, and it's not necessarily the best storytelling song in his, you know, catalog, but it's so unique in the fact that it kind of explains his total artistry, mix that in with the replay value, and just how it's been a timeless classic over these years, and, you know, how incredible the hook is as well. Arguably the best hook in his catalog. It has to crack your top 10.
It does have to. Let me ask you this. You think it's the most replayable, like easily replayable Kendrick song?
That and Money Trees.
Yeah.
Definitely that and Money Trees is going to be up there for me. But okay, talk to me about Feel.
Feel at number 10. This is probably an underrated pick. I feel like most Kendrick fans probably wouldn't have it this high up, but I do feel like it's probably Kendrick's most visceral performance in the sense that when you look at the various inflections, the tones he's using, the rhyme speed, the delivery, I can feel exactly the emotions that he's trying to express without even having to listen to the lyrics. I can feel the anger. I can feel the paranoia just through his demeanor and his presence on the mic as he's rapping on this track. Apart from that, I just love all the topics that he's bringing up on this track, talking about how, like, throughout all his entire career, he's been advocating for the people and he's been giving so much to the fans. But at the end of the day, sure, the fans care about Kendrick and his musical output, but who's praying for him? Like, who's really out there actually giving a fuck about Kendrick Lamar, the person? So it was cool to see him sort of struggling with the grapples of fame and sort of how to balance his life throughout the entire track. And I just love that it feels like Kendrick taking the cape off, you know, like a superhero taking the cape off and being like, yeah, it's not all sunshines and rainbows on this side. And yeah, it's cool because it feels like he's definitely suffocating in different thoughts and emotions, especially when you get to like the end of the song where he speeds up the flow. You could tell that he's overwhelmed.
Well, you could also hear it in the demeanor of his voice, how he gets angrier and angrier as the track progresses. So even from an artist performance standpoint, it's so well put together. So I can't be mad at the pick. It was in my honorable mentions, but let's keep going on with this. Number 9, all right? This is where I'm going to have high power. What do you got?
Number 9 is Mama.
Oh, I got it too.
You have it? Wow.
I got it too. Yes, sir.
I didn't think you were putting that in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Are you fucking crazy or what? But listen, okay, how about this? Because I have Mama kind of next, so we'll segue and we'll talk about it together. Yeah. And then after that, you go on to your number 8 pick. But let me talk about High Power. So like you said, this song is one of his richest songs when it comes to writing. By the way, J. Cole production on this beautiful beat, one of the best produced songs off the entire album. But it's just that when you think about what Kendrick Lamar stands for as a man and also like what he stands for spiritually, this is the song that kind of represents that. And you know, he's talking about his spirituality and talking about how his soul and his body and his mind all come together as one to be able to reach that high power. And throughout the entire, you know, Black hippie movement back then, especially like pre-GKMC and, you know, when they were very active, this was a big cult following, and this had a lot of people following that. I almost feel like High Power, not that I want to say it's the precursor to an INU, but it has that same sort of sentiment to where like it allows the audience to be able to get into the song on a spiritual level and to kind of understand what Kendrick is preaching throughout it, you know, talking about achieving richness in his body, talking about, you know, his quest for knowledge, and talking about how, you know, he won't close his mouth for anybody and he's a man in this world and he's going to stand on his ground. Like, when you really go through the ideologies of this song and you go through the verses, they're extremely powerful. Some of the best writing, especially early on in his catalog, and it was a big step for him, especially when you look at this going into a GKMC. Like, if I were to take maybe High Power, A Cushion Corinthians, and let's say A Poor Man's Dreams, those are arguably the best written songs on a Section 80, and those could be argued to be some of the best written songs even on a GKMC. So for me, I'm looking at that and I'm like, it's very hard to find a song like a High Power within his catalog, and to be honest, there is none. So I had to include it on my list, but let's get on to Mama, all right? So I'll let you talk about it, and then I'll segue into it on the number 8.
Yeah, this is definitely a quintessential song to the whole Pimp A Butterfly era, just because this was sort of like the origin story where he's really letting you know what gave him this refreshed mindset going into the making of this album. And it all lies with him touching back with his roots, taking that trip to South Africa. And that's where he's really sort of focusing on this track, is him going back and sort of getting refined perspectives, talking to children that are in Africa, and sort of when he gets into that second verse where he's talking to that kid who sort of, you know, lets him know that, you know, he doesn't really have TVs around him and that he's really grounded in nature and spirituality. That really like sets Kendrick off on a whole different path where he thought he knew everything, growing up in Compton and then going through a life and a career of fame and being around so many business-like people, whatever the case may be. He thought he had life figured out until he went back home. I also feel like it's one of the best produced songs because the production by Knowledge and Taz Arnold, it's so soulful. It's one of the warmest and lightest instrumentals you'll find in Kendrick's entire catalog, and his performance and his demeanor on the song perfectly mirrors that. Like, I feel like it's one of the best sort of combinations of performance and production throughout his catalog.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get on to the number 8, all right? Because I want to talk about Mama as well.
For sure.
So at number 8, I have Mama. What do you have at number 8?
Number 8 is How Much a Dollar Costs.
It's a bit low.
Too low?
It's a
You
bit
think
too
so?
low. Yeah, it's one of his
You'll
best
see what I
working
have
songs.
above it. I mean, there's one you're going to be mad at me for. My number 7, you're going to say, how the fuck is that above it? But I'll get into it later.
All right, so let me talk about Mama. What's
Yeah.
cool about it as well, by the way, he did a fantastic job explaining it, is just Kendrick also fighting with Satan in America. That's another big part of the song as well. Obviously, you have Uncle Sam and you have Lucy, two prominent figures, and obviously villains within the album as well. And it kind of comes to a full circle, like you were saying. And you find that prominent within one of the lyrics. The evils of Lucy were all around me, so I'm running for answers until I came home, and then boom. It's just a completely different tempo for the album. And I really enjoyed that from Kendrick Lamar. And like you said, returning to Africa, realizing where his roots were from, and understanding how, sometimes you have to be able to take a step back, to take a step forward, to be able to get over your trials and tribulations. I find it a beautiful song. But okay, talk to me about How Much a Dollar Costs. Well, not even top 5.
Not even top 5.
Not even top 5.
No.
That's fucking crazy.
So yeah, this is, I believe, is it the first storytelling cut that I have on here? Kind of, yeah. And that's going to be a popular trend with my list, is that I do feel like Kendrick is really able to showcase his full artistry when he's in that storytelling bag, and he's able to give you nuanced lyrics, amazing poetry, and amazing plot twists, which you get on How Much a Dollar Costs. And I mean, you could say that Kendrick Lamar humbled so many rappers and people on the song Humble, but I feel like this is the song where he gets humbled by God, and the way in which he does is mesmerizing, the way that it plays out. Like, it's the poetry is brilliant here. You have lines like, my son, temptation is one thing that I've defeated, where he's referring to Jesus being tempted by the devil in the desert. And just that moment where Kendrick finds out that that homeless man is God, like, you could feel his whole world turn upside down.
Absolutely.
It's one of the best plot twists I've ever heard in any form of music. So I have to give him props for the way he made the story play out so masterfully.
There's also a nocturnal vibe to the production that makes it a bit more eerie, which I'm going to talk about a bit more in
Really
my
is.
section.
I love the Ronald Isley outro vocals here. It's melancholic. It perfectly fits like that defeated mood that Kendrick is feeling throughout the
does.
track.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just when it comes to storytelling, one of the best tracks in hip hop history. So it had to be at number 8.
It's a bit low. But okay, all right. Let's see what you have.
Number 7, The Hard Part 5.
Number 7, the hard part 5.
Yes,
how much
sir.
our dollar cost? I can't argue it because I know how much you love the song, and I understand from the perspective switches.
You can't say recency bias because it's been 2 years. I've had to live with it. been
But
2
how much a
years.
dollar cost is definitely, in my opinion, a tad more interesting as far as writing goes, and I prefer the production and how much a dollar cost overall. And I do feel like it's one of the biggest cuts off of arguably his best ever album. So I don't know. It's
number
definitely
7. I'll speak. I'll speak on
Yeah,
it. But
anyways,
what's your number 7?
I have you on Pimp A Butterfly. That's
Great
where
pick, yeah.
I have you. Did you?
It was an honorable mention for me. I didn't have it in the list.
I had to include
Incredible
you on
song.
Okay, the reason why I wanted to include you on my list, especially this high up, is that obviously you guys have seen the memes on Twitter and shit where people will put like a dance or like a super happy dance behind the instrumental, let's say, or whatever the case may be. But this is definitely his most profound performance when it comes vocally and also emotionally throughout his entire catalog. And when Mixed by Ali was doing an interview, he had talked about that studio session and how hard it was for them to be able to record this just because of the amount of emotion that goes through this. And what's interesting is that the concept of I and you is obviously extremely prominent throughout the Pimp A Butterfly. It's one of the ongoing motives of the entire album. And when you get to the you section of it, it's like sort of like Kendrick's rock bottom, if that makes sense too, emotionally. He's so angry at himself. You could hear the bottle swinging. You could hear, the housemaid, or the hotel room maid, knocking on the door, asking if anyone's still there. It's very eerie. It's very dark. It almost feels like a Suicidal Thoughts version for Kendrick Lamar,
Yeah.
if that makes sense to you. You know, it's very graphic, it's very depictive, and I feel like when creating this list, I was trying to find those records that stand alone within his catalog that you can't find anywhere else, and this is really one of those records. You're not going to see a rock bottom like this throughout his entire catalog. It's easily the most profound moment on Pimp A Butterfly, and it's still one of my favorite tracks off of this album. Obviously, you want to talk about replay value, I'm not whipping this on in the car all the time.
That's it.
But when you could, like, I revisited it, especially for this episode, just to be able to go through the writing again, to be able to listen to the performances. It is so emotionally jarring, and it is just so captivating as a song and a record, and there's very few Kendrick Lamar songs that's able to evoke that type of emotion out of me. So had to include it in my top 10
Amazing
list.
pick. I can't be mad at that. I mean, I think the only reason why I maybe chose not to include it is because it's not the most accessible record. Like you were saying, I only really listen to it when I'm listening to a full dive of To Pimp a Butterfly. But yeah, in terms of just sheer performances, you got the nail on the head, man. It's really up there with the best of the best. But number 7, The Hard Part 5. This is hip hop magic to me. When you speak about a song that comes out at a time and speaks to the time in which it came out, and also covers what the culture is experiencing in real time. This was Kendrick's heart-to-heart with the fans. Like, this was him letting you know for the first time, like, I'm speaking directly to you after 5 years of taking a break. I'm coming back and I'm doing this, and this is a culmination, my entire career in this moment, of the love that I have for my community, the love that I have for my hood. Like, I did all of this for you, or at least partially for you, and to represent for you. That was sort of the message he was evoking with this. And every single word, every single syllable, every single breath has purpose on this track. I feel like in terms of his articulation on the mic, this is one of the best displays of him being super clear, super intentful. And he accomplished the impossible here. He speaks from the perspective of a beloved person who recently passed away, which was Nipsey Hussle at the time, and he did it with so much grace and so much class. Like, he's speaking directly to Sam, which is Nipsey Hussle's brother, and I always thought, like, the balls it takes to attempt something like that and the genius that it takes to pull it off, I have to applaud Kendrick for that, because most artists wouldn't even dare to attempt something like that. And this is Kendrick doing what he does best, right? Tapping into the perspective of another person that he knows well, or maybe knows somewhat well, and is able to speak from their lens and understand their mentality. It's a very challenging sort of, opportunity that he presented himself with. And I can't really compare this to any other performance or any other song in hip hop history, because again, he did the impossible here. I never would have thought that he would have been able to pull it off as exquisitely as he did. The production, the Marvin Gaye sample is used to perfection. And like, just the synergy between, Kendrick and the composition when he makes the drums come out of the track. It was masterfully executed from start to finish. Some of his best writing ever as well. And I do think it's better than How Much a Dollar Cost, everything considered. So.
Better than Money Trees, better than
Yeah.
You. There's a lot of songs, Lou. That's a lot of songs. Listen, I can't be mad. Explanation was good, but that's a lot of songs.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's keep going on with this. Number 6. So right before we get into the top 5, this is where I'm going to have Money Trees.
Okay, Money Trees are number 6. So wait, I'm looking at my 6 to 1. Okay, I see what you would have left out of my list.
All right. So
my number 6 is going to be Duckworth.
Oh, yeah.
It's not in your top 10?
Brother, it's a bit higher.
Okay.
All right, so let me talk about Money Trees. So people often know this as like one of Kendrick's biggest anthems, and it's one of the best sing-along songs within his entire catalog, but people don't know how profound this song really is and how there's a bunch of Easter eggs that tie into this song from GKMC. So let me take you guys through a couple of these. So when it goes, home invasion was persuasive from 9 to 5, talking about the art of peer pressure, talking about fucking Shireen and bragging about with his homies, obviously talking about Shireen within GKMC ties back into the title track, not the title track, the intro. Then after that, referencing the beat packs that he puts into his cars, rhyming with his friends, and then after that, robbing people, ties back to Backseat Freestyle. After that, once you start getting into deeper and deeper the story, you actually start getting into Kendrick Lamar's origin story and him talking about how he lost his Uncle Tony to a shooting, and that's very profound as well. Then you start to get into actually the line itself, which is one of the best quotables in any Kendrick Lamar song or any rap song itself. It's absolutely incredible. Hold on a second, let me pull this up. everybody gonna respect the shooter, but the one in the front of the gun
lives
live
forever.
forever. It's the best quotable that he has in his entire catalog, in my opinion, and just the richness from all of the Easter eggs coming together for Money Trees, having the J-Rock feature attached to it, one of the best and catchiest productions in his entire catalog. You can't deny the greatness of this song. It has to be in everyone's top 10. I'm very disappointed in you. I'm disappointed.
Bro, you know it's one of my
You
favorite
heard me.
Kendrick
Yeah,
songs. but again, like when I'm looking at lyricism, when I'm looking at production,
But you have it.
performances.
But you have
I
the
know.
quotables.
I just feel like there's stronger performances, stronger lyricism on other cuts. That's what it is for me. But again, I respect it. I'm not mad at seeing it on the top 10 list.
Seeing like a feel over a Money Trees, in my opinion, it's like,
To me, Kendrick's performance is stronger on feel.
I don't agree with you. But okay, talk to me about number 6.
Number 6 is Duckworth. I mean, this might be the coolest origin story that we've ever heard on Wax. It's one of those songs that leaves you stunned when you realize just how much impact one decision, one action can have on history and life as we know it. We've spoken and broken down like the ins and outs of the story between Kendrick, between Top Dog, between his father Ducky, the whole KFC story, and how it almost ended tragically for Kendrick's dad, and how Kendrick's life would have turned out completely differently if his father had passed away in a shootout. So it's that was a mind-blowing experience listening to that the first time that you spin Damn, just seeing that.
You probably didn't even pick up on it on the first time.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on it in the first time, I just love the production. To me, this is the best produced Kendrick song that I've ever heard from his entire catalog. Ninth Wonder absolutely killed it. I've mentioned this in the past, but he literally took 3 different sample flips from 3 different countries, from 3 different genres, across 3 different generations to tell a story about 3 different people. Like, just the intention behind that composition is fucking brilliant. So, I don't know if it's a hot take, me saying that it's the best produced Kendrick song, but that is how I feel. I love how Kendrick is fully conscious of the past tense, the present tense, the future tense, like
everything.
He's really considering and applying this story to every sort of timeline within his life. And it must have been amazing to be in that room when they reunited all those years later, Top Dog, Ducky, and Kendrick.
Absolutely.
To go over that story again. So, like I said, best origin story in hip-hop history, arguably. Had to have it in the list.
All right, let's continue on with this. Number
top 5. Here we go.
All right, this is where I'm going to have All Right. I have All Right at number 5.
I don't have All Right in the top 10. I do not.
Bro, you've missed some serious
I missed some serious songs, but I mean, it's Kendrick Lamar, bro. Like this,
there's some
I wish we could have done
there.
a top 30 because he has so many. The Art of Peer Pressure is number 5. Do you have it in the list?
I didn't have it on the list.
What?
I didn't have The Art of Peer Pressure on the list.
How don't you have it on the list?
I feel like there is better within his catalog.
This is like, not only is it accessible sonically, but even the storytelling. Anyways, but talk to me about All Right, which I don't have.
So I have All Right on the list just because it's arguably his most impactful song, especially from like a political and sociological view. Just going back to 2015, especially when you had activists that were using the lyrics itself. You're gonna be all right to be able to push a whole generation forward and to be able to give people optimism and hope. Like, it was just so beautiful to watch, and it was so interesting to be able to observe. And just even the whole concept of All Right and what it means for To Pimp a Butterfly is so interesting, because once you start to get through the track list, this is kind of the picker-upper of the album. This is kind of like Kendrick realizing that everything is not against him and that he's going to be able to push forward and he's going to carry his people with him. And I feel it's such a beautiful song from like a triumphant standpoint, if you get what I'm trying to say. So when I had gotten through this song, it was just absolutely incredible. And I feel like you have to include it, and especially the Pharrell production on the 4 count to start it off. There's just so much that goes into this track that I absolutely love. I do feel like it's a top 5 Kendrick Lamar song, and it's arguably one of the most important songs within his catalog, even going beyond just music itself. So that's why I wanted to include it.
I'm not mad at it. I do feel like it might end up being his signature song when it's all said and done.
Of course. I think I
think it's going to be like the number 1 song he's going to be most remembered for. But to me, it doesn't make it the best, even though it had incredible impact. But I respect it. Like I said, most of the picks that you're bringing that I don't have on my list, they'd be in the top 15, 20. Like, they wouldn't be too far off. But Number 5, The Art of Peer Pressure off of Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. This is one of his most diverse storytelling tracks because you're getting some light singing from Kendrick at certain points. You're getting a beat switch on this song. The flows are unpredictable. The narrative is unpredictable. And more than anything, I feel like this is the best world building song that you're going to get on all of Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, in the sense that it really does feel like you're on the ride for a day in the life of Kendrick Lamar and the types of shenanigans him and his friends are getting mixed up in. And I feel like this is a storytelling song that really stands out to me because it's the one that attacks and infiltrates my senses the most, because I can feel the seats in that white Toyota. I can taste the joint that they're passing around in that car. I could hear that Jeezy album ringing off. Just the way that he's describing it in such detail, it's all tangible to me. And I feel like that's so valuable as a fan, to make the music go beyond what you're listening to and really
It's
provide
one of his best written songs for
a
sure.
different experience. I love the cinematic effects within the track as well, being able to hear his mother's voice asking him like what he's doing, where he's at, hearing the police sirens ring off after they commit the home invasion. Like I said, this is one of those songs that really stands out because you're getting really a full day in the life of Kendrick at a crucial point in his life where he was a victim of peer pressure, essentially.
W.
So, had to have that there.
Great pick. But all right, number 4. This is where I'm going to have Duckworth.
This is where I'm going to have Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe.
Okay, so you included it a bit high up. You said that bias didn't come into play here. So
It would have been number 1 if Bias came to play, because it's my
That's very
favorite
true.
Kendrick song ever.
That's very true. So listen, let me talk a bit about Duckworth, just because I think you did a great job explaining it. Obviously, it's one of the coolest origin stories within all of music. Talking about the KFC incident, you talked about the the Ninth Wonder production and how there's kind of like 3 different layers to everything, from the samples to the where the samples originate from, the artist. So it's honestly a masterful song. And when I look at the rest of this list, it's up there with honestly, from like this 4 to 1, it was very easy for me. From the 4 to 1, it was very easy for me.
Me too.
I had no issues with this 4 to 1, if I'm being completely honest with you. And this is something that I really value in Kendrick Lamar's catalog. As I said, it's that pen, bro. It's that pen. That's why I was really considering The Art of Peer Pressure, but it became a debate between The Art of Peer Pressure and Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe.
Okay, that's true, because that was number 10 for you.
That was number
Wow.
10. So I was like, what am I doing here? It wasn't going to go in front of High Power for me, and it was not going to go in front of Mama. Those are untouchable for me. So
Respectable.
that's why I had to have Duckworth in my top 4.
Great pick. So yeah, number 4, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. I've spoken about the meaning of this song in a million fucking videos. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I spoke about it in our favorite song from every genre, as well as our top 10 favorite songs of all time. But you did a great job of Kendrick sort of laying out the balancing act of keeping his integrity while trying to move his way up into the music industry and become the star that he wants to become. And ultimately, I feel like this song is so high up for me because it perfectly represents why I have so much respect for Kendrick's artistry, in the sense of making super accessible music that is still nuanced and deeply meaningful. And Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is the definition of that, because you can feel enlightened listening to it and feel like you're getting some game kicked, but at the same time, it's just such an easy vibe to just throw on at any given time. One of his best all-around tracks as well. The hook is incredible. Endless quotables, intricate verses. The Danish electronic sample is beautiful. The violins that close off the
Thank
song.
God Lady Gaga didn't get on there.
Bro, that would have been an L and a half.
Imagine.
Like, you have been robbed of Kendrick's best hook. Well, mind you, even 3 Stacks was supposed to have a verse. I wouldn't have minded the 3 Stacks verse, but the song to me is perfect as it is.
It really is.
And I also feel like it doesn't get enough love for being a super celebratory song. Like, with certain lines like, you haven't heard the coast like this in a long time. Like, there's certain lines that just give you this anthemic, celebratory energy that people don't often talk about. So, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, literally my favorite song of all time. Had to be at least in the top 5 here. So
there we go.
Let's get into top 3. The nitty gritty. You're gonna be mad at me for this. Wesley's Theory is number 3.
I have How Much a Dollar Costs at number 3. Yeah, so I'm not mad at the Wesley's Theory pick. Again, it was something I was considering. It's just that I feel like there is better on Tip of a Butterfly. I know how much you love it, and how it's kind of like the laying grounds of Tip of a Butterfly, but when it comes to How Much a Dollar Costs, I just feel like you can't ignore the impact of the song, and it's just fucking chilling when you go through it. Like, I really tried to attack some of his best ever records and concepts when making my top 3, and How Much a Dollar Costs perfectly fits that bill. Like you said, the whole moment of meeting God in South Africa while he was on tour, asking for the dollar, and then after that, just him kind of going back and forth with the homeless man, but then it becomes sort of like this therapy session for Kendrick where the homeless man gradually sort of like, I'm not sure if you noticed that about the writing, he gradually starts to outsmart Kendrick. You know, it starts out very like basic, and you know, it doesn't seem like the man is very profound, and then after that he starts bringing up like Bible readings, and he starts bringing up like, you know, certain quotes like temptations is one thing that I've defeated, you know, and then there's sort of like a perspective switch for Kendrick there. So even the way that everything progresses is so interesting from a writing standpoint. It is a perfectly written song. It is a perfectly written song, and like you said, one of the greatest plot twists ever in rap music, if not the greatest.
Yeah.
Right next to a Duckworth, for example. It just shows how fucking strong this guy's catalog is. Like, how do you have multiple of these? A rapper might be able to get off maybe one of these, maybe two. I mean, I have fucking 4 of these in my top 5.
I know, bro.
You know, it's crazy to witness. So that's why How Much a Dollar Costs, top 3 Kendrick Lamar song ever. But talk to me about Wesley's Theory.
Yeah, I think the only reason why maybe it was a bit higher up, and again, this is me like when putting this list together, really looking at every single angle, and again, it's not a knock on the song. Don't twist it as that. But I feel like the production on a song like Wesley's Theory, for example, is superior to the production on a song like How Much a Dollar Costs.
It depends what you want out of the production, though. Like the nocturnal drums that come through, like how slow
it's just a bit more minimalistic. Like Wesley's Theory, for example, that is the funkiest beat on the entire album. I love the vinyl cracklings at the beginning, really making you feel like you're bumping that album on wax, like it's a classic record, adding you that feeling and that urgency. It's also one of Kendrick's most dynamic performances, and I feel like the reason why I appreciate the writing of this song so much is that every single rhyme almost has a metaphor attached to it. Like, the writing is just so fucking layered, and it really is the thesis of the album. Well, you could argue this or Mama. This more in the sense of like,
this is laying sort of like this is the thesis of the album.
It really is.
Mama is sort of like the origin story,
backstory of the album. Yeah, this is really
more like a flashback.
This is really the thesis of the album, where Kendrick is showing you how so many artists in the industry are being exploited, and sort of like giving you that metaphor of the butterfly and the caterpillar. And just some of his best writing, like I'll Wesley snipe your ass before 35, like the double meaning behind that, and the way the song flows and the way it's structured is masterfully done. The Dr. Dre break in the middle really ties up multiple eras of West Coast hip hop, even the bridge from George Clinton. It's quick, it's quirky as a song, and it makes you hold on to every single word. And yeah, all around as a track, it's a top 3 Kendrick song for me. So
there we go.
Top 2, here we go, man.
I think we have the same 2 and 1.
I don't know if the order is maybe different, but
I put my bias aside.
Number 2, Fear.
Yeah, I have number 2, Fear. Yeah, so we know what number 1 is.
Did you think I was gonna have Fear this high up?
I knew it.
Okay.
It's not fucking deniable.
Yeah.
If you didn't have it this high up, I would question your whole listening experience with Kendrick Lamar. You cannot deny the power of this song. You cannot. It's so well done. You know, being able to go through 3 different time periods of his life. I don't even want to talk. I can't even talk about it. Like, I've done this too many times.
I know, we've done this a bunch of times.
Where did I explain this, man?
Top 10 favorite songs of all time.
Yeah, I did that as well. I did it on there. I mean, I've done it so many times before, but it's masterfully put together. And I think it's because of how personal it feels. And like how there's
Bro, it literally feels like you're stepping into his mind for 8 minutes. Like, that's literally what it feels like. And what's crazy too is that those 3 ages are so important because it represents like childhood, adolescence,
and adulthood.
Like,
absolutely,
it's the circle of life in one track,
and the number 7 attached to each and every single one of them, which is really crazy as well.
And the reversed hook, the reversed part at the beginning, that is the hook in reverse, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Well, I can't confirm. Like, could I? Was it when I was doing my Jive on Genius? Was it? I don't know. The last time I went through it, apparently it was gibberish. Like, I know that it was. I know that it was reversed, but I'm not sure exactly what.
I feel like it's not gibberish. I feel like it's definitely lyrics from the song, but
I'd have to go back to Genius and check it out. If anyone knows, you guys could drop it in the comments for us. I'll be checking through the comment sections for this video. But regardless, though, you have to be able to have it, and like, this song has had such a deep impact on me. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. Also, like, performance-wise, right? You have like that deep monotone voice, and then you have that like ultra high baby voice. So, it's dynamic in that sense too. Like, this is a song where Kendrick doesn't leave any single stone unturned. Like, he does everything that a hip hop artist could do on a song. He accomplishes.
Absolutely. Yeah, there we go.
We've praised this so many times. 4 verses, guys. We talk about needing 3 verses in hip hop. This is a 4-verse masterpiece. Incredible. But yeah, number 1, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, guys.
So,
It couldn't have gone any other way.
It couldn't have gone any other way.
It couldn't have gone any fucking other way.
You're right. It couldn't have gone any other
way. This is such an important track to me just because Kendrick's really acting as a vessel for millions of people that are trapped in the vicious cycles that you find in the ghetto. And it was important in 2012 just as much as it's important as a message today. It's his most timeless song to me, and it's the craziest part is that it's based on a true story, bro.
You know, that's what's fucked about it. It also ties in 2 different albums together, which is crazy as well. You could find so many Easter eggs that tie back to, like, let's say Keisha's song Back on Section 80, which I find absolutely mind-blowing. Attacking, again, different perspectives from different verses again. Like, you know, you're not going to find this type of shit anywhere within hip-hop music. I feel like what this song has, all of the rest of my list has, but like it's all put into one, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, the impact in the culture, you know, the beautiful production, the perspective switches, you know, the metaphors and the life meanings. Like, it's the ultimate Kendrick Lamar, like, magnum opus. And apparently the song was supposed to be 2 different songs. There's Sing About Me and then Dying of Thirst. And then he just said, we'll put it together. And thankfully he did, because it's honestly his best ever song. And
yeah, it really is, bro.
It's not the one that, like you said, for Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, that's your favorite song of all time. Like, replay value wise, the one that you've connected to. Same thing with Me and Fear, but it's like you can't deny the Michael Jordan effect with this song. You know,
you can't. You really can't.
Your favorite player could be, let's say, you know, Nikola Jokic, but you know who's the best in the league. Well, he's arguably one of the best in the league right now. But you get what I'm trying to say, though. You know, like, this is an all-time great hip hop song.
This is his best written song. Like, the way his poetry and songwriting elicits sympathy for characters you've literally never met is extraordinary to me. Like, when he's rapping about, like, Dave's brother, it literally makes me feel like I've lost a real life friend. Like, that's how incredible.
It's really insane.
The character building is in these verses. You end up feeling like you know these people. It's masterful, like you said. Like, it's his ultimate masterpiece. It really is his ultimate masterpiece.
The magnum opus of Kendrick Lamar's discography. And when you have a magnum opus of one of the best discographies of all time, that's what's going to make the #1 placement. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know how you feel about the list in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this entire episode. Lou, I'm very happy with your list. I'm not going to lie with you.
I'm happy with yours too.
Absolutely. Great selections. But listen, guys, what should we have included? What did we disclude? And, you know, what's your top 3? Just let me know down in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.